She froze in the doorway of my garage, like a model from a billboard ad. Black dress, perfectly styled hair, and diamond stud earrings that I paid for. My Ford was up on jack stands with the oil pan removed. Her German sedan purred smoothly at the curb. She didn't even look my way, studying only her own reflection in the metal cabinet. "Don't wait for me," she tossed out, already scrolling through something on her iPad. "Where are you going?" I wiped my hands on an old rag. An ordinary question, a familiar lie. "A meeting with firm clients," she answered, not lifting her finger from the screen. At that moment, her tablet lit up on the workbench. "Chase is in the VIP lounge. Everything's ready. Waiting for you," the message read. Her reply came immediately. "Perfect. He's, as usual, in the garage. He won't notice a thing." A moment later, my phone emitted a short alert. A charge from the establishment Ember Room, the fourth one this month. "Do you want me to pretend I didn't see this?" I asked. "Or should I pretend I'm not an adult?" She gripped her clutch tighter and snapped, "Don't create drama." "So, just to be clear," I continued, "we're now sponsoring your nightlife?" She smiled, but there wasn't a trace of warmth in that smile. "If you don't like something, file for divorce." If I had known in advance where all this would lead, I would have done exactly the same thing. I took photos of the tablet and screenshots from the banking app. I sent her a message. "Have fun burning our money on your boyfriend." The reply came instantly. "Don't be ridiculous. I'm with friends, Adamber and Chase." That name on the screen became a lever for me, and I pressed it. I called Marco Singh, an old school friend who now specialized in divorce proceedings. "I need an emergency separation agreement and an immediate freeze on our joint accounts." "You sound suspiciously calm," Marco noted. "Because I'm tired of being an idiot," I replied. We moved quickly. He sent me a list of necessary actions. I blocked the cards, changed all the passwords, and set up alerts for any login attempts. Then I composed a short, dry letter to the club manager, Mr. Nolan, from my work account. As of tonight, any expenses by Laia Parker are her personal responsibility. The joint card has been canceled. If you have questions, call. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. "Ethan, this is Chase Nolan. There must be some misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding," I replied, leaning against the fender of the car. "She's an adult woman and perfectly capable of paying herself. That's not how things are done in the VIP lounge." He attempted a polite chuckle, but I didn't join in. He hung up first. At 2:17 in the morning, the front door shuttered. The click of heels on hardwood, and the kitchen light blazed on like an interrogation room. Laia stormed inside, her hair disheveled, her lipstick smeared, the perfect mask cracked. "You humiliated me," she screamed, throwing her bag onto the countertop. "My card was declined in front of everyone. You're the one who suggested I divorce you," I said, sliding my phone toward her with the open screenshots. The bank charges lined up like dominoes. She looked at the screen, then at me. "You went through my iPad?" It was lying open on my workbench like a billboard. "That was petty," she hissed. "Petty is using our money to impress people who can't even pronounce the name of my city." Her jaw tightened. "We can fix this. We just need to talk. Fixing this starts with you stop lying, stop spending money, and stop those jokes where my life is just background noise." I cut her off. "And you'll stop using me as a coat rack while you collect compliments on the side." Her phone vibrated. Marco worked precisely on time. A notification about filing for an emergency property separation. I let her read the text. "What have you done?" she asked, her fingers trembling. "What you told me to do. Now we live by the rules. Don't make rash moves. I'm calmer than I've ever been." I washed my hands, dried the sink thoroughly, and went to sleep. She stood by the kitchen island, unable to take her eyes off the screen. I left the garage light on. She hates that. In the morning, I changed the locks. Not out of spite, but for security. I sent her the new code and a schedule. She could pick up her clothes after work in the presence of a witness. I wrote to her mother, Vivian, the queen of cold disdain. A short message. "Laia is using work events as cover for nightly escapades. We're separating. If you need facts, call." I also sent a letter to Victor Rowe, her managing partner, a man for whom reputation was everything. "Your partner is using corporate events to mask personal nightlife. Attached are receipts and a timeline. No value judgments, just facts." Within the hour, Victor's assistant called. "Mr. Rowe will see you at noon." "Excellent," I replied. I gathered all the printouts and a one-page summary. The shop orders could wait. My foreman Dan could handle everything. I locked the garage, put on a clean work shirt, and drove to the meeting. Victor's office was high above the river, all glass and chrome. He met me at the door, a gray suit, a keen gaze. On the wall hung a diploma from that very law school Laya loved to mention at dinner parties. "Ethan," he said, shaking my hand, "this is unexpected." "Everything about this situation is unexpected," I replied, placing the folder on his desk. "But you need clarity." He offered coffee. I declined. We sat down. "I'm not going to tell you how to run your firm," I began, "but my wife used your events as cover for regular spending and nightly visits to a club. The manager's name is Chase. He called me yesterday when I blocked the card." Victor didn't even flinch as he reviewed the papers. "I understand." "She told me, if you don't like it, get a divorce." "So I did. We're filing for separation. I'm not asking you to take sides. I'm just informing you. Her dinner bills with clients might not be accurate." He kept flipping through the pages. "I appreciate you coming directly to me. I'm no longer willing to be a piece of the decor," I added, "and I don't want my name appearing on her expense reports." The door opened. An assistant brought in a note and vanished. Victor glanced at it and turned it face down. "We'll handle this internally." "Good," I said, standing up, "and I'll handle my part." When I reached the door, my phone buzzed. A message from Laya. "I was wrong yesterday. I'm sorry. I won't go to the club anymore. Can we talk tonight? I'll make dinner." The classic move, softness right after failure. I looked at the text, feeling her cast a line. I wrote back, "You can pick up your things at 6 p.m. Bring someone with you." She replied with a single period, my favorite punctuation mark in fake peace treaties. When I stepped out of the elevator, the river wind was sharp and clean. Next, I dialed Chase. "Let's meet on neutral ground," I suggested. He hesitated. "Why?" "At Murphy's Cafe on 5th Avenue, at 6 p.m. "Make it 4 p.m., he corrected. "And you're paying for your own soda." He gave a weak laugh. "Deal." Back at the shop, Dan waved a tablet at me. "We have 3 brake jobs and an alternator on a Silverado," he reported. Dan is a big guy with a quiet voice and golden hands. "I'll handle the alternator," I replied. "Work helps clear the mind." While I was removing the old unit, Marco called. Victor saw the documents. I told him he'd handle his own side. "Good," Marco said. "I'll file the temporary orders this afternoon. Only text her about business, no emotion." "That's not my hobby," I replied, examining the worn brushes and faulty regulator. "Send me the list of property access rules." At 4 p.m., I walked into Murphy's. Inside smelled of fryer grease and lemon cleaner. The bartender looked like a man who'd seen 1,000 arguments. Chase sat in the corner, an expensive jacket, a watch that screamed its price. He tried to stand up but changed his mind. "Ethan, man to man." "Let's skip the false brotherhood," I interrupted, sitting across from him. "Yesterday you called about a misunderstanding. Now you understand everything." "We're just friends," he interjected. "You're a manager who sells attention. She's a firm partner who buys it. And I'm the guy who no longer pays for it." I placed an envelope on the table with a copy of the letter to his office and the highlighted expense amounts. "From now on, if she needs VIP service, she uses her own card. Not mine, not a corporate one, not anything with my name on it." He leaned on his elbows. "You're going too far." "I'm going exactly as far as she told me to," I cut him off. "And until the divorce is final, I advise you to keep your distance. You can ignore this, but then your life will become much more complicated than it needs to be." "Are you threatening me?" "I'm forecasting." I pointed at the envelope. "You make a living saying yes. Well, this is the word no. Remember what it looks like." He stared at me for a long time, trying to see if I'd blink first. "Understood," he said finally. "I'll take it into account. Smart. And pass that along to your door staff in writing. The next declined card shouldn't result in a call to me. It should result in paying the bill." "Got it." "Great," I said, standing up. "And good luck, Chase. She's expensive." On my way out, my phone buzzed again. Marco said the orders were filed, and a courier would come by in the evening for signatures. I stepped out into the winter sun, and for the first time in months, I felt light. At 6 p.m. sharp, Laya appeared in the doorbell camera with a friend from the firm, Hannah. That junior associate always looked at me as if I were the help. I let them in remotely. Dan sat on the couch with pizza and a tool catalog as the witness. I stayed in the garage, bolting the new alternator onto the Ford. I heard drawers slide open, hangers clatter, whispers. As they left, Hannah peered into the garage. "Are you really doing this?" she asked, crossing her arms, probably practicing that gesture for court. "Already did," I replied, tightening a bolt. "Be careful with the dresses. There's salt on the steps." Laya stood behind her. "Ethan, can we talk for 10 minutes? "Tomorrow morning in a public place," I cut her off. "I don't do backroom deals." She looked at Dan, then at the camera, then back at me. "Fine, Market Street, 9 a.m. "Text me the name of the cafe," I said, and returned to work. She hates it when I don't let her have the last word. I arrived at the coffee shop early, took a corner table, and watched passers-by with red noses. Laya appeared in a beige coat, no makeup, the Vulnerability Act. She placed her phone face down. "I shouldn't have said that," she began, smoothing a napkin. "That line about divorce. It was cruel. But honest," I replied. "I was just following your instruction." She argued that it wasn't an instruction, just a flash of anger. According to her, she had felt abandoned in our marriage for a long time. "Ethan, you spent nights in private clubs," I answered. "That's a significant difference." She insisted, claiming I had practically moved into the workshop and paid more attention to car parts than to my own wife. "I communicate with things that don't know how to lie," I cut back, letting the words sink in. The barista called out orders, while someone near the entrance laughed too loudly. "Get to the point," I said. She exhaled and admitted she wanted to fix everything. She promised Ember was done. She swore to eliminate everything that made me feel disrespected. She suggested marriage counseling and starting over with a clean slate. I noted that she just wanted to preserve her lifestyle and conveniences. I laid out my conditions: no clubs, separate finances, and our shared house transfers to my sole possession until we legally divide the property. I emphasized it was time to stop pretending. This wasn't a pause, this was a final break. She looked at me intently and concluded that I was refusing therapy. "I'm not going to sit in an office and perform remorse while you calculate how it will look from the outside." I said the time for performances is over. She argued that this wasn't fair. In her opinion, fairness meant each paying their own bills. I replied that fairness was not writing messages saying a lover supposedly wouldn't notice the husband. She called it a joke. I said I no longer understood that kind of humor. To me, it looked like a clear set of instructions. She lowered her gaze and whispered that she missed us. I countered that she didn't miss me, but the status our union provided. "If you truly missed me, you wouldn't have sought comfort in nightclubs." She instantly changed tactics, promising to spend less time at work and fewer late nights. I replied that was her business with Victor. For a moment, silence hung in the air. She picked up her phone, turned it over in her hands, then changed her mind and placed it face down. "Give me a week," she finally said. "No clubs. I'll move into the guest bedroom." I replied that I was giving her a week only to move her things into storage. "I'm not going to drag this process out." She accused me of wanting to punish her, but I explained I was simply protecting myself. "I'm doing this politely," I added. Her face tightened, and she declared I was making a mistake. If my mistake is demanding respect, I'm ready to live with that. With that, our conversation was over. She reached out her hand, as if trying to stop the moment. "Ethan, I've already filed for divorce," I interrupted. "There's no turning back." We left the cafe without touching. She headed east, and I headed west. That afternoon, she tried another lever, sending a long, soft-toned message. She wrote that she was now thinking clearly and realized the pain she'd caused me. She promised to skip all evening events that month. She even booked us a counselor for Thursday at 6 p.m., asking if I could come. The invitation had silly emojis, as if we were freshmen. I replied that I wasn't going to fix her problems. I would focus on myself. At dusk, Vivian called. Her icy voice could freeze hot soup. She asked if it was true. She accused me of destroying her daughter's career. I replied that Laya was doing that herself, and added that I had alerted Victor. He would protect the firm's interests. Her daughter needed to stand up for herself. That's what friends were for. Vivian snapped back, calling me too harsh and unyielding. I replied that was why I kept the door open for them for 15 years, but today I locked it. She sneered that I had always been petty. Maybe, But I always pay my own bills, I parried and hung up. You can't win an argument with Vivian. You can only stop wasting time on the conversation. 2 days later, while I was working under a pickup, my phone exploded with notifications. My cousin sent me a link. Laia had published a long post on social media, presenting her version of events. In the filtered photos, she looked sincere, and the caption said she was seeking support. She wrote about a husband who controls her spending and isolates her with his rules. Of course, she didn't name me, but Milwaukee is a small city. The comments immediately filled with standard words of support, like, "Stay strong, you've got this." She even tagged that coffee shop, as if it were a campaign stop. I put my phone face down on the fender. Dan emerged from the next bay, his arms covered in grease up to the elbows. He asked if I was going to do anything. I said no, wiping a wrench. Let that post burn itself out. Dan, with a hint of pride, noted that I was much colder than I appeared. "I'm tired of paying for illusions," I replied. "Being cold is cheaper." That evening, Victor called. He wanted me to hear the news directly from him. He said an internal investigation into partner conduct had begun, and Laia was temporarily suspended. I noted that I hadn't asked for this. Victor replied he was simply doing his job. He added that she wouldn't consider this mercy. I replied, "Mercy isn't really my department." The next morning, Laia came to my shop. She never showed up here unless she needed a spare key. She scanned the work bays, the waiting customers, the perpetually broken coffee machine. She chose her moment. The shop was full of people, witnesses everywhere. 15 minutes and 31 seconds. We need to talk privately, she said, heading toward the office. We can discuss everything right here, I replied, loud enough for Dan to hear, while remaining polite. She lowered her voice. You told Victor to suspend me. I told Victor the truth, I said. He made the decision himself. You ruined my reputation, she said, her eyes shining but dry. You traded it for compliments, I parried. Don't send me the bill. A man in a work jacket cleared his throat from the waiting chair. Laia straightened up and switched to a velvet tone. Ethan, I love you, she said, pressing her hand to her heart. Please, let's do the counseling. I'll sell the BMW if it helps the budget. I'll do anything to fix this. Another full-scale illusion. Big promises, emotional currency, grand gestures. For a second, I wanted to believe it. But then I remembered what I'd read. He won't notice. You don't need to sell anything, I replied. You need to respect the person who paid while you partied. Therapy won't teach you that. Losing comfort might. You're cruel, she whispered. I'm consistent, I said. You suggested divorce. I agreed. She stepped closer, nearly touching me, but stopped. What do you want from me? Give me the spare keys, I said, and stop coming here without a reason that can fit in one short sentence. She looked at me as if I'd asked her to translate a technical manual. Then she reached into her bag, pulled out a key ring, and dropped it into my palm. Metal on skin, simple as a closing door. Happy? She asked. No, I replied, just finished. She walked past the counter with her chin high. The man in the jacket watched her go, then looked at me. Tough, he said quietly. Necessary, I replied, and called the next person on the list. Late that evening, I got a message from Hannah. Ethan, please call me. It's about the firm. I dialed. She sounded flustered. Victor asked me to help with the paperwork while Laia is out, she said. I found a series of reimbursements labeled Client Entertainment that looked like personal expenses. I didn't want this to catch you off guard. Thank you, I replied. Very little surprises me anymore. She says you're exaggerating, Hannah added. I reacted, I replied. Big difference. The next morning, a courier from Marco arrived with papers to sign. Temporary support calculation, property access, vehicle division. I signed them in my office, which smelled of rubber and solvent, a better scent than the cologne I wore on my wedding day. I sent Laia a polite message. Courier will deliver documents at noon. Please have your ID ready. No need to reply. She replied anyway. Are you trying to humiliate me? You could have kept this between us. You made it public when you tagged that latte, I wrote back. Noon. At 11, Vivian appeared at my garage door like a frost warning. You're destroying a family, she said instead of hello. We're two adults with no children, I replied. We're dividing assets. You could forgive, she said. I forgave for years, I parried. Forgiveness without boundaries is encouragement. You were always a mechanic from the West Side, she said as if it were a diagnosis. And you always needed an audience, I replied, turning away to tighten a bolt. She walked off, heels clicking. The sound of retreat sounded like applause to me. At noon, the courier messaged. Documents signed. She looked tired. I can imagine. The afternoon brought silence. No posts, no calls, no theatrics. The quiet was almost deafening. Then at 6, Chase sent a short message. We're good here. Consider it handled. I didn't reply. He wasn't my problem. By week's end, the rumors spread the way they always do in this city. Customers asked questions with their eyes. Neighbors waved a little longer than usual. I didn't offer stories. I offered brake pads. The final meeting was on Sunday afternoon. She asked to pick up the last boxes and some jewelry. I told her to come at 3 and said Dan would be there. I wasn't avoiding her. I just wasn't giving her anything to perform with. She arrived in a hoodie and jeans, hair pulled back, no pretense. She walked through rooms we had furnished together 10 years ago with a calculator and a sense of humor. She took her framed diplomas, left the wedding album. She paused in the garage doorway, where the Ford was finally starting to look like a truck again. You always loved that stupid truck, she said. It's a Ford, I corrected, and I love this work. You loved us once, she said, half statement, half audition. I loved what I thought we were building, I said, handing her a plastic bin. Then I found out I was building it alone. She leaned against the door frame. I want to apologize, and for it to matter. It does matter, I replied, but it doesn't change the outcome. Her gaze fell to my hands. You really won't give me a chance? You had 15 years of chances, I said. You used the last one to book a VIP table. She flinched. Just a little, just enough to feel the truth sting. Can I say one thing? Only one, I replied. Say goodbye like an adult. She straightened up. Goodbye, Ethan. I nodded. Goodbye, Laya. She hoisted the last box onto her shoulder, walked through the kitchen, and placed the keys on the island without being reminded. She lingered, throwing one last look for a loophole that wasn't there. When she stepped outside, I followed to the porch. She turned at the bottom of the steps. You'll regret this, she said, the last card thrown on a dead table. You said, divorce me, I reminded her. I'm just following your instructions. The papers are filed. From now on, we live apart. Her face flickered. Anger, pride, a quick shuffle of familiar scripts. But there were no pages left, and the book was closed. She got in her car and drove away without looking back. I locked the door behind her and went to the garage, coiled the hose, wiped the fender, and let silence become the main point. The epilogue is simple. I sold the house we bought when we thought more meant better, and bought a clean 3-bedroom closer to the shop, with a fenced yard and a maple tree that already knows how to be a tree. I traded the family SUV for a used Tacoma, with a bed cover that laughs at winter. The Ford in my garage now runs. It took months, but it runs, and the sound of the engine is honest. Business picked up. Rumors fade fast when a man draws boundaries and doesn't waver. Men bring their trucks and tell me things they don't say at home. Women bring their cars and ask for facts without the fluff. Dan got a raise and a new set of tools on my dime, because loyalty should be what you spend money on. There's a woman I see sometimes, Nora, a project manager for a parts supplier. We eat tacos after late deliveries. She listens like an adult and laughs the same way. No promises. I like it. About Laya, I hear fragments. She moved to a modern apartment with a view she can't afford without a chunk of the old partnership. Her mother has stopped posting photos with her for now. Victor remained impartial. Partners always do. Chase. I haven't seen him again. The club once sent a winter promotion to my work email. I marked it as spam. People ask if I miss the marriage. I reply that I miss the respect. You can miss a lawn and still be glad you don't have to mow it. I didn't win anything. I didn't need to. I kept what mattered. My name, my cash flow, my rules. When you stop explaining yourself to someone who benefits from misunderstanding you, peace arrives. It feels like a man in a garage tightening a bolt and not caring who's watching. And if a stranger ever tells you, if you don't like it, divorce me, take them at their word. Some instructions don't require a second reading. Our story has come to an end.